Hey guys, and welcome back. It's been a shitty probably 3 months between this video and the last video I uploaded. It's been way too long. Just been far too busy to sit down and put any sort of footage together and work out what's going on with the car and upgrades and whatnot. Between working on the car and hooking up a camera and videoing stuff, it gets hard. So I just thought I'd whip out the camera quickly. I'm just videoing on the phone. The GoPro's either flat, missing a card, whatever. This is just easier for now. I'm wearing sunnies because yet again I've got another eye infection, which is just like having loading flash, gives me the shits. So I'm very sensitive to the light. So yeah, upgrades to the car. I think since last time in the last video, it ended on me deciding to nearly put the engine back in. So obviously that's all happened. The engine's gone back in the car, ran flawlessly. I've done a whole new fuel system. I'll go into talking about that as well. I'll spin the camera around and show the upgrades that I've done there. We took it to Heathcote, did some Heathcote, however you want to say it, and did some racing. That went well. It was just a good chance to get over there and do some testing ahead of drag challenge, which didn't end up going ahead as I said, and it ended up doing a head gasket. Not sure why. Unfortunately, on the run that it did it, it wasn't logging via the trans brake trigger, so that was unfortunate. But earlier in the runs, it had hit some safeties in regards to fuel pressure. It had a bit of a voltage drop with something that I'd done in regards to changing the wiring to the alternator. So I put that back to the way it was, and now it is getting the full 14 volts, which it wasn't before. And I think that's why that there was a bit of a restriction as to why the fuel pumps weren't getting the voltage required, and wasn't meeting the fuel pressure either. So we fixed that, got around that, and then the next pass after that, it did a head gasket. So might not have caught it earlier enough on as to maybe why it did that, but I've pulled them off, and this time instead of running the GM LSA LS9 gaskets, which I've always ran, I've now switched over to a small bore BTR gasket, and I'm going to give them a go. So a few other things have happened since then. Not events wise, it's been crap. I haven't been able to do anything. Was meant to go to Midnight Mayhem as well over in Sydney, and that didn't happen either. So since then, just been going over the car, refining a few problems, and working towards that goal of eventually, hopefully, running a 7-second time. So I've also upgraded the turbos. That's now upgraded from the GDX 47 is now gone, and I've put a G50 on it, which is a newly released item. Spools up wicked, drives nice, and isn't laggy as well, which is always good. So it'll be good to get back to the track once we can, and get the car sort of dialed in, tested, and get it running some numbers that it should be. So for now, I'll spin the camera around, talk about some of the things that have been happening and what's been done to the car. So as I said, got the engine all back together, and we raced it at Heathcote with that GDX 47. It showed really good short times, and 60 foots was working killer. Since then, obviously that turbo is gone. This is the new turbo. I was going to smooth it ahead of going to summernats with the car. I'm just going to leave it for now. It looks quite bigger physically, so that fitted up great, and once again still drives killer. And the engine bay did turn out pretty good, obviously with those coils back on top this time. Yeah, worked out well. In the meantime, like I said, getting the car ready for summernats. The car's all ready to go now. It's probably just getting a bit dusty from harvesters across the road, but it's back in a street trim, you might call it. I pulled the front half of the cage out, so it's all back in street trim. Put the seats back in it from the factory, and the front half of the cage is gone. And I got rid of the buttons off the steering wheel as well, so there's no tangling happening there. Got some VL cup holders as well, just to hold the slushies and the drinks during summernats and while we're driving, not in the lap. So that's all good. Cleaned up the seats with the wet and dry vac, and they come up really good too, so I'm happy with that. Got the CO2 bottle filled up, so that's all ready to go. Just got some shit sitting down there, got to clean up still, so nearly ready to go. As I mentioned as well, done a bit of a fuel system upgrade. So yeah, saying that, along with all this fuel system, I've also opted out for my old tank, sold that to Nick, who bought my fuel pump, which was pretty much no good to him without a fuel tank. And I had a perfectly fine tank here to suit his, and wanted to go to a bigger tank. So what I'm doing is, here's something I prepared earlier. The guys at Raceworks hooked me up with one of their bigger 75 litre fuel cells. Obviously it normally sits landscape. I flipped it, spun it the other way, so it's still the same width, sits in there pretty nice. Obviously with the bars coming in with the cage, it's a bit narrow, and the tank's wider obviously. So I had planned on, if there was enough room, obviously I need to put that hanger in, was to be behind the fuel filler cap, but if I flip it long ways, I can hopefully drill a hole here, drop the tank or the pump hanger in there, but I really want to put some baffles in there as well for fuel surging, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I can get my hand in there and remove the anodized, because it's a black anodized fuel cell, so looks pretty trick. Nothing wrong with the old one, just wanted to go a bit bigger capacity, and obviously the fuel pump changed, so yeah, drag challenge and fuel is pretty important with a car like this. Fuel economy might not be so great as your Toyota Prius, so bigger tank, 3 pumps, stage them, new ECU. We'll swap out all the old hardline underneath, which is a -8 feed, change it to all -10. Return will be fine, I'll leave that. We'll get that done as well. Just another one of the jobs I need to do before we go test this, hopefully before drag challenge. I'll show you, I got rid of the old tank. I was running an aeromotive tank before with the in-tank brushless pump. That was starting to run out of fuel, so this time I've opted out with the old tank and in with the new. This is a Raceworks unit, 75 litre job, and now running an in-tank Sean's custom alloy billet hanger. I'll throw up some pictures of that. That's a really nice unit, and that's running 3 525 Woolbro pumps, and I just fitted up the splash guard, because it always seemed to spill some fuel every time I get that sitting in there, so that's good. And as I said, have tested that out at Heathcote, whatever you want to call it, and that works well. So yeah. Other things I've been doing, I've fixed up the rear wheel arches and painted the rear quarters lightly. They come out good. And the back bumper also was cracked. I'll throw up some footage of that. Just had the back bar off recently, put a whole new set of new pinstriping on it and some molds. I polished that center garnish, come up good. Yeah, car's starting to look a bit more neater. Obviously one day I'd like to paint the whole car, but for now it's just a cleaned up factory paint as much as I can cruiser. So we'll go back to cruising the streets a little bit before I get back into racing it. So just thought I'd do a little bit of a recap on what's happened with the car before getting back into it. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this one. Cheers.